Welcome to another episode of Life and Whiskey. Today we are going to check out the 9-year-old Knob Creek Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. So this is a Beam Suntory product. Jim Beam owns this, and if you go back through the archives, you'll see that this little bottle here, Knob Creek Small Batch, was one that I reviewed. The reason why we're coming back to this is in 2020, Knob Creek got its 9-year age statement back. So, for about 4 or 5 years, kind of that 2014-15 time frame forward to 2020, they got rid of the age statement and it just became their small batch because their sales growth was so high, along with all other bourbon distilleries out there. The bourbon boom took off in 2015, 2016, somewhere in there. And because of the boom in interest of bourbon, stocks were depleted. The rick houses had been depleted so much that they were unable to have enough barrels on hand to meet the 9-year age statement requirement, that they got rid of it. And you'll see that a lot of brands at that time, from 2015 to present even, a lot of traditional brand names got rid of their age statement whiskeys, which is a real shame because there is a difference. And, I understand it when you're trying to get stuff out the door and you become popular and people are craving and demanding what you have. Your natural instinct is going to be to fill that demand and bring that money when you can. However, if you're doing it by sacrificing the aging and the quality that you're known for, that might be detrimental. But because so many people were newcomers to the bourbon world, they didn't really know the difference. And so I guess in the end, they probably ended up working out just fine. So there is literally, I don't even know if you can see it in there, but there is literally just a drop in this bottle left. So hopefully, and this has been sitting empty like this for several months, so maybe it's tainted, maybe it's not. We're going to find out. And then we're going to crack into this, and we'll crack into this first. We'll review this, and then we'll nose that and compare it and see if there is a difference. I wish I had a larger quantity of this small batch to compare it to. If you watch my review of this small batch, I don't really remember, and I did not watch it to see what I said, but I kind of think that I didn't have anything extraordinary to say about it, and I think it did have a little bit of a younger flavor profile to it. I do not know what ages of bourbons were in here. It does not have an age statement on it, therefore it must be at least 4 years old. But that aside, 4 years compared to 9 years is quite a difference. So let's get into this Knob Creek. It's kind of funny. A couple of years back, my brother, and I probably said this story last time, but my brother was always, I'm a Knob Creek fan, I'm a bourbon fan, I drink whiskey, I drink bourbon. And now he doesn't really drink much whiskey altogether, no matter what. And boy, this kind of spilled all over, which means that this cork didn't do its job very well as far as sealing things off. So once I tore that wax off, this cork, it spilled out from underneath this cork, and it's a synthetic cork, so that's a little depressing. Anyways, here we go. Let me throw this away quick. So 9-year age statement. Age statements are there for the consumer's benefit. A lot of people think that just because something's older means that it's better. And I'm wholeheartedly going to disagree with that. I have had some tremendous whiskeys that are only 3 or 4 years old. With bourbon, I think that 5 to 10 year mark is kind of where most bourbons really hit their stride. When it comes to scotch and stuff, kind of that 10 to 20 year mark seems to be where Scotch, especially depending on what region it's from, in my opinion, where Scotch really shines. Rye, I think, really does well right around that 5-6 year mark. But the thing with an age statement on any whiskey is that the older the whiskey is, it means that there's going to tend to be less of that whiskey. Therefore, the price is going to be more expensive. If you watch back the whiskey review video that I just did on some of the Wellers and the Glenfarclas 1972, like 1972 whiskey is pretty old whiskey, fairly rare, hard to get your hands on, and they're doing it one cask at a time, so there's only 500 and something bottles of that available. That's going to make it expensive. And as I said, that particular bottle was $550 in the store. I wasn't a huge fan of that whiskey. I didn't find it any more satisfactory than, a $50 bottle. So just because you're paying for it, you might just be paying for bragging rights and not necessarily for delicious tasting whiskey. So keep that in mind when it comes to age statements. However, how the rules are stated, if it is straight whiskey, doesn't matter what kind it is, here in the United States, if it is straight whiskey, it must be aged at least 2 years, but that needs to be stated on the bottle. If there is not an age statement on the bottle, so a non-age statement whiskey, NAS is what we refer to those as. That means it must be a minimum of 4 years old to not have any sort of age statement on that bottle at all. With that, it is to the distiller's benefit most of the time to put an age statement on that bottle if it is of a higher age. So if it is 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, it's to the benefit because a lot of people look at that age statement as being something significant. I personally don't care, but a lot of people do, so it's kind of a little bit of marketing. And as you can see on this bottle, that 9 stands out quite a bit. So on the nose, it's a bit subdued, and I will say also that this is 100 proof, which is the requirement for a bottled in bond whiskey, but this is not bottled in bond. The nose is quite subdued. At the top of the glass, I'm getting a little bit of floral and a little bit of brown sugar. Out of my right nostril and down to the corner here, I'm getting a little bit of confectioner's sugar. A little bit of vanilla in there. Like vanilla frosting vanilla, almost like some rums present. More ethanol than anything, and like most of those nosing notes, I really, really have to dig for them. There's not a lot going on in the nose of this particular whiskey. It's pretty light, and I'm sure with time it'll open up some. But on the taste, the taste is sweet forward, hard candy cherry, a little cough syrupy medicinal. It goes like hard candy sweet, and then it immediately goes into cherry cough syrup, kind of that bitter tannic aftertaste. And then that moves into a light oak, a little bit of ethanol, a little bit of sweet. Not an overly complex flavor profile, and it is like that, man, cherry cough syrup is kind of taking over the whole thing. The nose hasn't changed. A little bit of sweet. You can pick up just a touch of like peanut dust in the background. Not a whole lot. So it's not an overly complex whiskey, in my opinion. And it's melded together, but it's not the most even-keeled profile. There's a couple of spiky notes in there, and that cherry cough syrup is like standing out a lot. Get a little nose whistle in there. Okay, so that's not a fair comparison because I cannot smell this at all. There is literally nothing coming out of this glass bottle. And like I said, there's literally just a drop in there. I'm going to just shoot this and see what we get out of it. It's young, it's bitey, it's very harsh white oak stave oakiness. There's a vanilla over the top of all that, and a sugary sweetness. So like a white granulated sugar and a vanilla, like a vanilla candied, like a vanilla Tootsie Roll kind of a vanilla that kind of goes through the whole thing. There's no cherry, there's no complexity. It's just sweet and harsh white wood oak, not tannic, just like raw oak wood flavor. So if you cut a piece of white oak, if you've ever been out in the woods and you've cut down a white oak tree, the way that smells is the way that tastes to me, that this small batch tasted to me. So if you find a small batch, a Knob Creek small batch that's coming from that 2015 to 2020 period, you're getting a younger whiskey, and to me it tastes like it. This this 9-year, this probably is a 2021 bottling, I would guess. And it's more mature for sure. And now the nose is all floral, kind of almost like a rye whiskey smell to it with a little bit of brown sugar. Boy, I'm just all over the place today. You take a drop of whiskey sometimes, rub it together, let it evaporate. Sometimes you get more out of it. So there was more brown sugary sweetness out of that once I rubbed it together, let it evaporate. And now in the glass, it's graham cracker, brown sugar. On the taste, that cough syrup note disappeared. It became more oak, tannic, brown sugar sweet. Still very simplistic in its flavor profile. It was like 2 notes. The ethanol picks up at the tail end, a little black pepper in there. And a little bit of an unsweetened cherry flavor. I'm not a huge fan of it. I'm not gonna lie. It's not bad. It's not my wheelhouse as far as bourbon goes. I've decided when it comes to bourbon, I really like the sweeter, strawberry, jammy, with a touch of oak, not oak tannin to it, but like nice oak flavor to it. Kind of lean away from the cherries and more into the corn and grain dust flavors. When I drink a bourbon, I really enjoy the finished bourbons like Angel's Envy and stuff like that. Just the sweeter components that brings, I really enjoy. When it comes to my scotches, I really like Islay and Speyside scotches. I'm not a huge Highland Scotch fan. They're not bad. I just don't really appreciate those light fruit flavors and the baking spices and stuff. It's just not what I'm reaching for when I want something to drink. I really like the peatiness, the smokiness, the harshness of the Islas. And the Speysides, I really like that butterscotch that comes through, along with some of the saltiness and the brininess. As everybody knows who watches this channel, huge fan of rye whiskey, and I think I'm kind of just a fan of almost all types of expressions of rye. I like the Pennsylvania style. I like the MGP style. I like that floralness. I like the bitiness. I like the black licorice and the anise and the eucalyptus that you get out of it, the dark astringent tea flavors. I like a lot of the craft ryes that have the different grain flavors to it, as I've said a couple of times, and hopefully I can get a bottle to review someday here. The John Jacob rye out of Seattle and the Fremont distillery there. Man, it has this caramely sweetness to it. I like rye whiskey a lot. and it just has all kinds of different flavors. So there you go. As far as a bourbon goes, this isn't my cup of tea, but if you're a fan of Knob Creek, go out and take a look and see if you can't find the Knob Creeks with the 9-year age statement back on them. That's how you'll know that you got one of the newer bottlings again. It's a Beam Suntory product. I picked this up at the cheaper liquor store here in town. This is a $3.75, and I bought it for $15.89, so that puts it in what, $32 to $35 category for a 9-year age statement whiskey. That's pretty darn good. You know, that's a hefty age statement for that price. So there you go. If you're a Knob Creek fan, drop in the comments down below where I'm getting it wrong. It's just not my deal. But you know what? It's definitely not a bad bourbon by any stretch of the imagination. Drop in the comments down below what you can also find Knob Creek, the 9-year new restated age statement whiskey for in your area. I'd love to hear what you have to say about that. As always, share this video if you think there's somebody who would appreciate it. Also, like I said, let me know what your experience is with this. If you're watching this on YouTube, check out LifeandWhiskey on Bitchute and Rumble. And I guess maybe Minds. I don't know. We'll see about that. Sorry. I was hoping I'd be able to get more out of this as far as nosing and whatnot, but there was just nothing really left in there to go after. But you can definitely tell there is a significant difference in flavor characteristics from one bottling to the next, and this small batch definitely carries that younger flavor profile that one would expect from a younger whiskey. So there you go. Knob Creek. Yeah, it's just not my cup of tea, but a good bourbon nonetheless. You guys have yourselves a great day. Thanks for watching. Sorry I kind of stumbled through this video and the last couple videos, but I do appreciate it. As always, you guys have yourselves a great day, and we'll catch you in the next video.